What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. Feeling a little bit under the weather today, so if my voice sounds a little bit weird, that's because I'm not feeling great. So we're going over something I took a long time to realize that is honestly kind of funny. We're also going to go over something that's not very funny. We talk about Galvanized, Aptitude, Savvy, and Shot, and how those still don't work on a bunch of weapons, even though... Okay, we'll get into it. Alright, before we get into it, though, make sure you're subbed and all that stuff so you can see when all the videos go up and all that kind of good stuff. Alright, so we're going to start with the funny stuff, then we're going to move on to the not funny stuff, alright? So, last night, and yes, I know this build is really scuffed, so don't worry about it. So last night, I was looking at my 9 Forma Sporothrix. By the way, it's got so many Forma because I've had like 3 or 4 different ribbons for this thing over the year. I was looking at this thing, and I'm like, oh, you know what? This mod doesn't work on the Sporothrix. You know, it says direct damage per status effect up to 2 times and all this. It's supposed to give you condition overload for guns, basically. This Galvanized Aptitude mod was added in the Sister Parvos update about 6 months ago. And yeah, this mod does not work on the Sporothrix. How would you know in any way that it does not work on the Sporothrix by reading this? Direct damage per status type affecting the target 20 how would you know at all this does not work? DE is about to give this mod out as a Twitch drop on their new dev stream later this month. This is a lot of endo to max this thing out. I think it's like as much as a Prime mod. We're talking like 20,000 endo or whatever it costs, and then like nearly 1 million credits to get this thing maxed out. Okay, cool. Well, it does not work on a lot of weapons, and they basically changed the wording of this to add that direct damage thing right there. That used to not have that line of text on this thing. But before we get into it, let's get to the funny part. So I was just like, hey, I already have a D polarity in here. This mod doesn't work. Let's take it off. What else can I put on here? Oh wait, there's literally only 2 D polarity or Vazarin polarity mods in the entire game, and I'm just gonna specify what I mean by that. So look at this: primed cryo rounds. This is a Vazarin polarity. Primed cryo round is just the same mod but primed. It's the same exact mod but primed, and the same thing is for Galvanized Aptitude and Rifle Aptitude. You can basically call Galvanized Aptitude Rifle Aptitude Prime. We got increased stash chance for rifles. It's got Aptitude in the name. We got Galvanized Aptitude. It's got Aptitude in the name as well. Increased stat chance for rifles. Also got the additional condition overload for guns. There are literally only 2 D polarity mods or Vazarin polarity mods for rifles. Besides Hammer Shot, there's technically 3, I guess. So yeah, there's 3 total mods that you can choose from. This Vazarin polarity is a giant waste of Forma in nearly every situation, because we're going to talk about a spreadsheet. Some dude made a spreadsheet. He basically tested like almost every weapon in the game with this mod and showed how a lot of them don't work. Because remember, there's this mod also for secondaries and shotguns as well. So it's a similar situation. We look at the Vazarin polarity. There's not even a Hammer Shot here. We've got Galvanized Shot, Sure Shot, which is the non-prime version of Galvanized Shot, and we've got Deep Freeze with no prime version. So you don't really have much to choose from in that polarity department. It's really weird because look at this. Look how many mods are in the Matarai polarity. There's too many to count. This is so much more. And I guess over the years I just didn't realize that there was not really any mods, because I would see the unranked Deep Freeze, I'd see the unranked Sure Shot. I'm like, oh yeah, there's like more than just 2 mods. No, there's literally 2 mods for 2.5 mods for pistols, and shotguns I don't think are any different either. Look at even the Naramon polarity has a ton of mods in here. So I'm just wondering why are there not more Vazarin polarity mods? Like, I just don't understand. Like, what? First off, how did I miss this, and why in the first place? And we're looking at shotguns here, the final weapon type that are gun related. We've got about 3.5 mods as well. We've got Galvanized Savvy, which is basically shotgun savvy with primed. We've got this terrible mod, Tainted Shell, which gives you reduced fire rate and reduced spread, and it's a 10 drain or a rank 10 mod. So you need a ton of endo to level that up. So yeah, people are just basically wasting their endo on Galvanized Savvy a lot of the time because they did specify that it does not work on AoE like explosions, but it's supposed to work on the direct hit of the shot. But then you're just like, wait a minute, DE just might be lazy because you test it on the Astilla Prime, which has a direct impact damage and also an explosion shot afterwards. Galvanized Savvy does not work on either part of the Astilla Prime, which is going against their description on the mod. Direct hit, I'm hitting them directly with the shot. Literally nothing is scaling at all. So I think that they need to go back. This is 6 months out. You need to go back, DE. This is unacceptable. This is complete garbage. I'm going to recommend people don't usually even level this weapon up, because a lot of the time you can clear the actual game without this mod at all. And the fact you need to do guesswork to know if it even works is awful. Absolutely awful. I'm going to link the spreadsheet that guy made in the description down below. I haven't thoroughly tested it, but I was like briefly looking through it before this video. There's weapons like the Euphona Prime that it does not work on, according to this guy's spreadsheet. And I ain't testing every weapon in the game. That's DE's job. It's not my job to test every weapon in the game working with this one specific mod. Like, oh, make sure you don't viral proc them because that increases damage. Make sure you don't corrosive proc them because that can influence the damage number as well. Heat procs and all that. Why does it not work on this? Why does it not work on the Kuvazar shotgun mode? If you're trying to say it's because you don't want to work on AoE stuff, then make it work on the non-AoE stuff too. DE just did not want to properly fix this mod. They stuck direct damage on here and said, get over it. If you don't like it, don't use the mod. And the thing is, this is such a niche thing that not a lot of people know about, that it's gonna just be like your rally. They're gonna move on, and we complained about this for months and months. It was actually even more bugged before than it currently is, but it's still bugged on a lot of weapons that it should work on. Like, fair is fair, D. You don't want to work on AoE stuff, make it work on the non-AoE stuff that's supposed to work on too. So I'd say, it's basically they're trying to just trick people, is how it feels, because they could be doing the right thing and going back and making it work on everything. So like it works on this thing, it works on beam weapons like pretty much all the time. But then like it's when projectile weapons start coming into play, that's when it's like, does it actually work or not? It's just like the Riven thing all over again. It's like, well, we could spend our time to pick good Riven numbers for everything, or we could just release 0.5 disposition Rivens off the bat, and they can just be low stat until 8 months later, 9 months later, when we eventually get around to buffing this thing, because they won't buff the Rivens right away at launch. It's after the fact. So like I said earlier, I'd say that people that know about this should be complaining to DE. Hey, I understand you don't want it on AoE stuff. Understandable, I guess. But let's get some consistency here. There's certain AoE weapons it does work on for some reason. Let me just take a brief look through this spreadsheet I was talking to you about. Let's see. So the Acrid, which is like a needle launcher, it does not work on that, even though it probably should. Acarius, a rocket launcher pistol, it apparently works on that. Where's the consistency here? Does it work on the Ak Bolto or the Ak Bolto Prime? Maybe some of this stuff is older, but yeah, the Sporothrix, for example, the one that started this entire thought process in my head. I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't work. It shouldn't work on the explosion according to DE's logic, but the direct shot of my bullet is not going to be allowed to work with that. I have to go waste the Forma now because it arbitrarily just doesn't work on the Sporothrix. What did I do wrong, DE? Am I supposed to be able to predict the future and know if it's working or not, even though you said that it's supposed to be on non-AoE stuff? According to your like half-butt description here? It's really baloney. I would not recommend wasting endo on this just because the headache that it comes up with. There's certain weapons I'd say, yeah, it's worth having the Galvanized Aptitude mod on, like the Cedo for even more conditioner overload, the Babonico with all those different types of procs you can get on there. Yeah, there's certain weapons it's great on. But for the vast majority of things, it's just guesswork and not worth the headache to max it out. So that's the purpose of today's video. Of course, is still on the weapons it does work on, it's great. But the fact that you have to waste all your time and you like potentially get a headache thinking like, oh, is it actually working? Is this placebo effect? I think it's working. Oh, maybe it's not working. Oh, it's working better than it's supposed to on this weapon. DE needs to, in 2022, I'd say you need to make that conditioner overload for guns actually consistent across the board. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Peace.